Episode 20 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. Dude, I'm here with like the wrestling shoe king. That's what we're going to call you, Drew. If you haven't seen him, check him out. Drew Wrestler Shoes. I'll add in his at Instagram whenever we start posting and things like that. Dude, you wrestled at Bucknell, right?
Yep,
And
Bucknell.
you're from the state of Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Outside of being a two-time NCAA qualifier, I really don't know a lot about you, and I don't think anybody that sees this is going to know a lot about you. They're just going to know, hey, this guy has like every pair of wrestling shoes known to man at some point.
Yeah.
So, dude, tell us about you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in North Huntington, Pennsylvania, a little town outside of Pittsburgh, right in the Whitfield. I'm sure most people have heard the Whitfield. And then, so high school, I was three-time state placer in PA. Finished as high as second at my senior year. Obviously, the goal there was to win, so that was kind of depressing. But hey, looking back on it, state finalist, pretty good, I guess. And then, yeah, Bucknell for college. Two-time NCAA qualifier there. Finished with 99 wins, which, I probably could have got my 100th at the Nationals my senior year, but that was the COVID year when it got canceled. Which was, again, another kind of depressing finish, I guess. We wish that could have changed, ended differently, but you got to roll with the punches there. So, yeah, definitely kind of just a quick ending. I went, like, obviously I qualified for nationals at our conference tournament, went back and, the way we did it at Bucknell, we went back and we trained for like a week and a half. And then then you would send you home for about like 4 or 5 days. So I went back, I did the training for a week and a half. Then we were sent home and we were right in that process of kind of like getting ready to leave for nationals when it got canceled. So that was a hard time. And then, just getting sent home after that, finishing school virtually at the time was, a brand new experience. So we didn't really know what we were doing. So it was just a real weird finish to college for me. But it is what it is. I ended up joining them for one more year after that as a volunteer assistant coach, which was my brother's freshman year there, and that was actually a pretty fun year, despite how weird it was. With the just the COVID tests every week and having to practice in the mask and everything. It was fun just to for us to both be there because we were 5 years apart essentially, so we never crossed over on teams. So I guess for one year it was kind of like we were on the same team there. Then after that, life just kept happening. I moved back home to Pittsburgh, and I went to. I was a grad assistant at Seton Hill University, if you've ever heard of that, in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Spent 2 years there as grad assistant, and got my master's in business there, and just I had a fun time there. It's Division II, so slightly different pace than Division I, but nonetheless, it's still wrestling. So I got to be on the mat a little bit every day, help out, some different types of kids. And then just last year, moved down to North Carolina because my girlfriend took a job here at Duke Hospital. So that's the main reason. But also we were just looking for, kind of I don't know, a new experience, something other than Pennsylvania. So I spent the last year down here, and I guess that's the quick version of how I ended up down here in my last 10 years.
Dude, to that's a fascinating thing to end up in the South from Pennsylvania, right? And it's probably a kind of a culture shock, I'd say, for you. It's a little different down here.
Oh yeah, it's Southern hospitality, I guess, is a real thing. That's one thing I've noticed. The people, I don't know, they seem a little nicer. Pace seems slowed down just a tad, so I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, dude. It really is a real thing, man. You can run into probably 50 people on the street that probably take their shirt off and just give it to you down here. With people like that.
Yeah.
Dude, I want to talk about what it is you do now. That is kind of fascinating because we were kind of messaging, texting there for a while, like, and you had told me, you said, dude, you go, I do this full time. Like, this is what I do, and I'm like, that's cool. Like. So explain to me how you go from, I guess, coaching like your last year there at Seton Hall, right? And what you said your last season, and then you girlfriend moved to North Carolina, like completely uproot from where you're from. And
Yeah.
now you sell wrestling shoes on Instagram and, eBay, and I'm sure you like put it everywhere, but you do that full time. So
Yeah,
how did that happen?
Well, it's I guess we'll say it's my main thing. I have like, I don't know, a couple like small little things here and there I'm involved in, but I definitely this last year since we moved down here, I've really pushed the shoes. Just being, kind of a new start down here, I wanted to really see how I could do with that business if I like put all my effort into it. And honestly, it's gone well for me, so I'm really happy with that. But I guess again, that's kind of started back with the COVID period. Pretty well. Let's go back even further. My whole life, I've been interested in the shoes. It's been around forever. Back when when Flickr was a thing. If you've heard of Flickr,
Yeah.
that's kind of where it started. Just collecting for fun. I was like anyone else, just trying to get some cool shoes. And basically, when I went to college, I feel like that kind of got put on the back burner because I was obviously trying to become the best wrestler, trying to become national champion. So wasn't caring about the shoes as much. But when COVID hit, I went back home. I remembered, okay, I have like 30 pairs of like vintage shoes. So I'm like, I guess like I don't know, I don't have as much use for them. So I started selling them a little bit, but I found it to, I guess, be hard considering that was just one of my favorite hobbies. So just continued with the wheeling and dealing, as they would say. And that first year during the COVID, I started realizing, like, okay, there's a little bit of money to be made here. But it wasn't, I never started it for the money, but then I realized, hey, I'm selling these, I'm making a little bit of money, and I'm finding deals and stuff. So I don't know, slowly build it up. And again, then those last 3 years when I was coaching there, I was really pushing in my head. I was thinking, I want to get into coaching, ideally Division 1, but somewhere in the college level. And just the way it worked out with finishing at Seton Hill, I didn't have anything else lined up. I had a few interviews for head coaching positions for different Division 2s that just didn't work out. And my girlfriend really wanted to move down here, so I was like, you know what, we'll take the leap. I'll figure out something down here, if need be. But the last year, since we moved down, I just been putting my heart and soul into the shoes, and so that's what I've been doing the last year. Not dead set on that. Like I said, I would like to get into coaching at some level, ideally college level. That's just, I don't know, where I see myself. But yeah, that's kind of how we got to where we are. So I can show you here a little bit. I got some of the shoes back here. The bed's filled, but then I got more in the closet.
Dude, everybody's got a niche, right? Like everybody's got kind of a niche of something, right? And you were saying, you wanted to coach at the college level, and that's like your long-term goal, which is awesome, man. And I hope that eventually happens. But I'll say this, man. Anybody who has any kind of background in the sport of wrestling can really give back at any level, right? And like something that, and I'm just throwing this out. Maybe this helps you at some point, like even sell more shoes. Like in your local community, wherever you are there in North Carolina, like the Southeast in general, is starting to grow, right? Like it's not predominantly been a wrestling territory, right? Like Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North, South Carolina. Those states have never been like predominantly like, the powerhouses like PA, right? Or Ohio or California. So in the last, maybe 10 years, there's kind of been a little bit of a shift there. Like, and I've said this before, like I'm from Georgia, but like the Georgia 14U team, national freestyle team a couple years ago placed 8th. And then that basically that same team placed as first year cadets 8th again. And then Florida's right there in the top 10 and Tennessee's starting to creep. So like the more people that have that experience from a powerhouse state that could come bring that to the Southeast, it's only going to grow the sport right down here. So if you just said, hey, I can see a scenario with like, I like your logo too, where you kind of put your name and wrestler together. I think that's really unique.
Yeah.
So
that was my mom's idea when I was like 10, I think.
Dude, that's cool. Like it's unique and different. Like it has a different feel. I could even see a scenario where you could open a training center there in North Carolina that you would pop and sell shoes like nobody's business, and you would be able to provide a true, real value to parents and young kids that are wanting to get better. So, you know, there's a lot of guys that like in Chattanooga here or in our area down here. Have you heard of Chattanooga, Tennessee? We live close to that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've been there for, I think we had a tournament there in college. Forget for what it was. Not the Southern Scuffle, but it was like a dual tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Scuffle, it's every year Tyrant. You know Tyrant Wrestling? Tyrant?
Yeah.
They do they started like 5 years ago. They do a youth tournament like the day of the Scuffle, and it's like across the city, like maybe a couple miles, and they give all the participants like tickets to the Scuffle. It's kind of a cool thing. But in our local area, there's a couple, you know, top level Division I guys that run training centers down here. So like, and you know, they could all probably have like a high level, you know, college job. But it seems like a lot of guys are shifting that way. I don't know. What's your opinion on that? Would you even be interested in doing something like that?
Yeah, surprisingly, I've actually been looking into it a little bit. My one buddy that I actually know through wrestling shoes, I used to make deals with him when we were like younger. When I moved down here, we kind of got in contact because he's like, "Oh, you live like 5 minutes from me." So I've been he's been one of my good buddies since I moved down. But we've been talking about it, possibly going in together and just trying to open a little wrestling club. I don't know. Maybe we're into jujitsu as well, so maybe like a wrestling club jujitsu hybrid. Um, but you know, have you heard of Zat Zavaksi? He wrestled Virginia Tech.
Go ahead, tell me about it.
He is a really good PA wrestler. I think he was 2 or 3 times state champ. But he has a club down here. It's in Apex, North Carolina, which is probably like half an hour from me. So like that's kind of an example of someone I feel like you're mentioning he's a really high level wrestler. He's 2-time All-American D1 level, so he was better than me even. But he opened a club down in Apex with I guess a few buddies he had from high school who moved down. So this is like a really poppin' area down here. It's definitely growing. You know, back home it's almost like the wrestling's great, but the actual like towns and cities are kind of stagnant or declining. But down here, I feel like if you've heard of like Cary, Apex, all those areas, kind of I don't know, south of Durham, a little bit west of Raleigh, man, that area is just growing like crazy. There's so many developments, like housing developments going in. There's so many young families down there. Just everywhere you look, there's just little families with young kids, and people are out. It's lively. There's music. They're walking their dogs. So I'm really liking this area. I just feel like it's like, I don't know, very, very lively. That's the word. A lot of energy. But yeah, I think getting back to your question, that's definitely not out of the realm of possibilities because it's something I've been looking into, just trying to figure out, you know, if we were to do it. First off, you know, is this the right spot here in like Durham? And then also obviously the logistics, you know, getting the place, getting everything figured out. But definitely that's on my radar.
It seems like based on, you know, the years of watching these things pop up and pop down. Now, granted, it would be like within my wheelhouse here. Like I don't know what's going on in Pennsylvania or Ohio or whatever. I mean, I know there's staples like Jeff Jordan Camp's been in Ohio for 100 years, right? And Perler's out west. But in general, like you know, maybe 6-8 months ago, I don't know. And you should check them out just to check out their room. Predreza Wrestling it's in Gainesville, Georgia. Out of nowhere,
Okay.
this guy wrestled in Georgia. And out of nowhere, he's a young guy, and I've talked to him a handful of times. But he, out of nowhere, his club, he started posting on Instagram of this club. And dude, his room is amazing, right? It is a beautiful wrestling setup. And I'm like, what is this? Like, wow. And then he started like these drone videos where it had like, it's in like a shopping mall. I haven't been there, but I've kind of seen the drone videos and things. And it's in like a shopping mall. And you kind of see like this view where it's like coming out, right? And you can kind of see the front, and then you kind of, dude, it's a beautiful setup. Now, granted, it cost, somebody paid for that. I don't know who, but somebody paid for that. But in general, I feel like and this could go for anything, right? Like there's not many clubs like that, like outside of maybe Young Guns up there in Pennsylvania has everything Young Guns around, even the Young Guns Nashville down here in Tennessee, like they run out of like Brentwood Academy, I think, in Tennessee. So like most clubs run out of a school or, something, a church, whatever. But in a scenario, especially with like that cool Drew Wrestler brand, if you could find the right partnership, I think that it would draw a lot of kids and a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Because it's different and it's unique, right? Like the thing about kids that I've learned like over the years, and not so different from my own kids, right? Like kids are attracted to what's new and cool, right? Like, or what they feel is new and cool.
Oh yeah.
And if you look behind me, right, like we built this card game, right? Like the first character, the idea behind it really was, we call him MB, by the way, the guy in the green. That was our first character. And while this was happening, like me and Bryson talked about it, and then we talked to our partner, and we kind of like collaborated with like, I think kids would like this, maybe not this, and just kind of played with the idea, right? But in general, when you can hit like a cool factor, a niche in a specific area, like it's gonna happen. It's just really like I've had the idea for a long time that I'd love to have a supplemental club just in and find like a couple of good coaches and like have it structured for the county I live in, because I grew up here, right? And I want to for the kids that can't get to Chattanooga for a training center or can't get down to Dalton for a training center, there's something within a walking distance within the county, or, they can carpool together from the high school. I've always wanted to do that. And I feel like it'd be really cool to Bmoney Beastin brand in the same scenario as like Pedreza. But at the same time, there's a lot of upfront costs there. So I feel like if you can take your branding, and especially in your situation, you have a daily audience in the wrestling shoe game, right? And can you imagine you had a setup and it was Drew Wrestler and you got the shoes and maybe you clean it up a little bit, change the color scheme, like all of a sudden you got two income streams, right? Like you got the income streams from the shoes, you got the income streams from, drop-ins and, monthly fees and whatever. And I think that could be a really good business, especially in the state of North Carolina, because you had just told me about but in general, they're probably very spread out, right? Like clubs and teams and things, they're probably spread out. Because in Georgia, like I live right on the line, right? There's one club 20 minutes, 30 minutes south of me. And then from there's not a whole lot until you get into like the Atlanta area. So it's probably really spread out. So if you look at like the demographic and say, hey, I got, there's 15,000 people within, this many, maybe that they would come here and, you could promote what you've done, where you've been, and with the branding. I think it's a great idea. And plus, if you're into jiu-jitsu, it gives you another clientele base.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of stuff to think about. I do want to, like you mentioned, use that Drew Wrestler name somehow. I know I'm not sure exactly how, but I do think it could be very supplemental in growing the brand. I've thought in the past of doing like a Drew Wrestler tournament or something where you win a pair of shoes instead of a trophy.
That's cool, yeah.
Yeah. So different ideas are kind of circulating, but like I said, this last year really has been the first year that I pushed it super hard. So ideally, I just keep growing that, and some of those ideas might come eventually. I've talked about or thought about kind of opening my own Drew Wrestler shoe brand as well. Which I think, again, could be something down the line, maybe in a year or so if things work out. So definitely a lot of stuff on the table, a lot of ideas. I know around here, I don't know if you guys have any like RTCs near you, but I know like because I'm in the triangle here, we have like the UNC RTC, Chapel Hill, and then we have the RTC out of NC State. So there is, like, I guess you'd say, some competition here with clubs, because I think most of the higher level high school guys, at least the ones who are qualified, are going to those RTCs. And then obviously they're getting all the college guys. I probably wouldn't be in the market for any college guys if it was a club. But and then, like I said, with that, clubs have actually started in Apex, and then there's Raw, which is Raleigh area wrestling. There is, I guess, some competition, but all of that, like I said, is about 25, 30 minutes south of me. So I think maybe in Durham would be a good spot to try. And then the jujitsu is like popping like crazy. Like jujitsu gyms are just popping up all over the place. So where I go, it's like an overcrowded gym. So I know that could be a decent market as well. Obviously, I would have to get someone to run that. I think we need a black belt, but would be a good idea maybe.
They have a, here we got the Chattanooga Regional Training Center out of
Hmm.
UC. From there, that's the only one, within, probably to you guys, right, or Virginia or whatever. So, but
Hmm.
it runs. I want to say it starts in like the end of March and goes through the summer through Fargo or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing, right? Like I think it's a cool thing. Like last year, Bryson just went to Minion still, the earlier or the later practice because like he was so small that even though he qualified where he could go to the training center, like the RTC, there wasn't anybody there for him to go with. So it was
Yeah.
like I
Yeah. I
was like,
feel
it
that.
sucks, man, because we could get in there at 4:30 and get out at 6, right? Instead of going at 6
Hmm.
and getting out at 8. But it was what it was.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah.
like, it's one of those things where they I think that the market's not really even for high school, right? Or college guys. I think your biggest market is for like the K through 8
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
in reality, the biggest issue that you see, like you got kids that can get good really fast. Like, you probably seen like a clip of me talking to Khalil, right? From Life.
Hmm.
That dude
Yeah.
was a sophomore, man. And I know it's Georgia and everybody's like, everybody can win state in Georgia. It's not really that simple. Okay? There are some studs down here. But dude, he started as a sophomore, man, and won state as a senior. And
Wow.
he was 19-3 as a sophomore. His when he was a sophomore in college. Of course, he went like 9 years in between his sophomore and junior year, right? So I started
Yeah.
calling him Van Wilder. Like every time we text now, I call him Van Wilder, right? I'm like, you've been in college your whole life, but like, it's possible. But I think more than anything, development is like the key, right? Like if you can get kids young,
Hmm.
get them because that's the big thing. Structured, right? A lot of these kids clubs, man. I mean, it's great to have exposure to the sport of wrestling, but if it's not structured, they're just kind of learning to throw, cow catchers, and they
Oh
wrestle
yeah.
for 8 weeks and nothing. They never really improve. So if there's opportunities, and the more people that open opportunities for kids to develop, I think that's even more important than once the kids get to high school.
Hmm.
All you're really doing is providing them a place to beat the piss out of each other, right? Because
Yeah.
really, if you look at most kids, really, like I talked to a bunch of high school kids, and at that point, that they know how to wrestle, especially if they started at 5 years old, right? They may pick something up here and there, and they may clean up this
Hmm.
or that, but in reality, they're going to get better, and they want to push themselves with a kid that's better or as good as they are, and they're looking for competition type things. Little kids want to know how to do it, right? Like, how do I win? So I think you build that. I think it helps everybody. And plus, you have like a big base of kids. Because say you
Yeah.
get 20 kids, you're going to lose 8 of them. Well, then when those 8 go, you got 15 more coming in. So it's a never ending, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that could get
Hmm.
it. Plus, your branding would fit better with like young kids, right? Like, oh, dude, Coach sells shoes, man. Did you see those over there? They're like purple and that one's lime green. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, dude, what
Yeah.
is that? Nike, right? Or whatever. So I,
100%. Yeah.
I feel like it just
Yeah. I
meshes.
like that idea. I like that. Okay. Yeah. I had in my head, well, I haven't dove too deep into thought yet, but yeah, I was thinking more middle school, high school, but I think definitely the younger kids are almost, like you said, they're definitely more influential. It's almost like more important to catch them young. So yeah, that's just a good idea. Um, I've been helping out at one club around here that it's actually like interesting, right? Whenever you like step back and you get those younger kids, because my brain's like so wired now. It's like a lot of the stuff that I feel is like second nature or like just naturally you would do. You have to like take that step back and tell them like, no, you got to put your hand here or like your head's got to be up. Just little things that almost to me, like I've wrestled so long and obviously coached at college that it's like to me it's like I don't know, like English, like you just know it. It's like
Right,
breathing.
right.
But to them you gotta take the step back. So it probably would be good for me as a coach, to have those type of kids there. um Yeah, I know one school around here was interested in me coaching their middle school team, but ultimately ended up not doing that. But I think back on it, maybe it would have been kind of a decent spot for me as a coach, just because I've seen the higher levels. I've worked with some RTCs, some high school teams, so maybe that would be the next step to try to catch them younger and maybe like you said, influence them for the better, instead of catching them once their habits are already formed.
I'll say this because where you're at, and you're talking about your area and like what's south of you and what's. I think once you determine where you think you're going to be, right? Like you and your girlfriend, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to live here. This is where we're going to settle. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I
Well, yeah,
think that
that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the other thing. We're not exactly set. Is this where we're going to be long term?
right.
So
So
yeah,
I think before you take that jump, because you want community support, right? Like the way you
exactly. Yeah.
grow is you want that community support. So I'm just going to throw out a scenario. Say, okay, we're not going to live here in Durham. We're going to move to. I'm just going to make this up. We're going to move to Birmingham, Alabama, and we're going to live here forever. All right, just making this up. Okay, if it was me, this is the way I would approach it, and I'm just telling you what I think. I would go to the local high schools that are with middle schools and high schools that are within 20 miles of me in a circle, right? And I'd be like, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I've accomplished. This is what I can do. And I would
Hmm.
say, okay, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to go say 4 days a week. We're going to do K through 6, or, of course, you're going to have sixth graders. You bump up to the older age or whatever. But just in general, we're going to do
Yeah.
K through 6 from 5:30 to 7. We're going to do middle school, high school from 7 to 8:30 or whatever the time is, right? And we're going to do it four
Yeah.
days a week. And we're looking for the most centrally located area that we can get to bring to help all these schools together, right? We're going to build like a RTC, and that's essentially what Minion did out of UTC, right? They're pulling
Hmm.
Alabama kids, Georgia kids, Tennessee kids, and essentially they just go in there and beat the piss out of each other 4 days a week, and everybody's elevated from it, right?
Yeah.
Like Scottsboro, Alabama just won a state championship last year. They put kids in a charter van. They're an hour away. They put kids in a charter
Oh
van,
wow.
go over the mountain, and they drop them off. They beat the piss out of each other. They go home. So, like, I would say, okay, we got a 20-mile circle radius here in all these high schools. I want to elevate all these high schools. So, the only way I can do that is if we break it up and I get them young and I build them from day one. I'm going to do this. And the kids that are in middle school, I want to elevate them before they get to high school. And I
Hmm.
think with the branding, and I think actually bringing in, and the thing about high school coaches, and most of them, right? Not saying always, but most of them, they want that help, right? Like
Oh yeah, 100%.
they want it. They're like, hey, like in our area, all the high school coaches, they rely on the kids going to those training centers. They do.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, okay, so say, and then you meet people and you say, okay, I need 2 or 3 assistants for this, this, and this, and you kind of build it around that way. And once you get settled, I think you could become a staple in an area, right? Drew Wrestler, and you already have a big Instagram following, so it wouldn't be that hard to promote or whatever. I think it would be relatively easy because the first minute that you post something, hey, I'm here, I'm coaching, dude, that thing's going to explode, right? So it would be an easy process to get rolling, and I think it would get a really
Hmm.
good following.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all great ideas. Yeah. Thank you. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been just like I said, just exploring the different avenues and seeing what I want to do long term. But the shoe game is nice. It keeps me involved. Like you said, I have that influence. People are seeing it. Obviously, I have followers from all over the country, all over the world. So I don't know how many are right here in the area, but in general, having that, I don't know if you want to call it prestige or whatever, like you have that following. So it's been good for me. It's been a way to keep just stay involved with the wrestling community outside of coaching all the time. So I'm also refereeing, which this will be my second year down here in North Carolina doing that, which has actually been a lot of fun for me. I've been enjoying that. So I'm just still in this period figuring out what am I going to do long term? Am I going to get back to college coaching? Am I going to start a club? Am I going to push hard in the refereeing? I have maybe visions of going and refereeing at the college level or someday. Um, do I just want to push the shoes, or hey, do I use my undergrad? Do I go back to geoscience, my business degree? Do I look for a business job? I don't know, but I think I'm hardwired to be more of an entrepreneur, like running my own business. It's just something I've been interested in my whole life, and being a high school wrestler, I spent all my time at clubs, like you said. I didn't have jobs really in high school. I know a lot of kids did. I didn't have time for it. In the summer I was traveling. We were going to Fargo, or we're going to Disney duels. Or I was going to clubs, or like week long, camps you would call them. So it was, I don't know, just how I'm wired. I've had like one job in my life where I had a boss, and I was like, it's not really my thing. So I'd like to do something along those lines of being my own boss, but we'll see what it is someday.
I always felt like, it's funny you brought that up, dude. Like, and I don't mind talking about my outside of wrestling life at all. I got out of high school and I had a pregnant girlfriend, right? And I'm like, hey, I need a job. like I got to feed this kid or whatever. And
Yeah.
I got into cable TV, right? I become a tech, right? Like right out, and I probably did every job you could do in cable. And now I got I do Bmoney Beastin, but I also have another job, and I run a school. We train cable contractors. I've done a lot of technical writing
Nice.
and stuff like that. And dude, I love my boss. Like I don't even consider him my boss. We've built this thing together. I was part of it. I mean, he is my boss technically, but like since the inception of the company, like I was with it before we even launched it. So I've been like a part of this building process. And I kind of learned in my life, like as times went on in the past, I've been doing this with him for 11 years. And, I started Bmoney Beastin 4 years ago almost. And I have a knack. I feel like what I enjoy and what I do is I like building things, like taking a concept and just building it. Like,
Yeah.
and it's going to be perfect. Probably not. Do you get better as time goes on? And it kind of relates back to being a wrestler, right? Like you start and you mess up and you fail and you lose and you just keep kind of going. And, the original idea for what we do was we were going to be like a champion brand, right? Like we wanted to help. The whole thing has been around wanting to help underprivileged kids, right? And I shifted off that really quick, and then we started producing the shoes, and we've sold a bunch, and then we sent a bunch to different places. We just sent like 200 pairs to South America to help underprivileged kids and wrestlers.
Nice.
And dude, like, at the end of the day, I don't know what the long term is of Bmoney Beastin. I do know that we're going to continue to grow Mat Clash because it will be the Pokemon of the wrestling world. Like we keep building onto it and adding to it. Like I have 45 or 50 cards sitting on a Word document right now that will completely turn the game upside down. And we're going to slowly introduce those over years. And I think it's just going to continuously grow. But, at the end of the day, like my whole goal was to just try to help people because I was the kid that rode a bike to get to football practice because I didn't have a ride. I always borrowed equipment. Like I never had anything. And to this day, I'm the simplest guy in the world, man. Right now I'm wearing flip-flops I've been wearing for like 10 years, right? Like I need to go get some, right? But like I don't need a lot. You know what I'm saying? So like that was the basis of what we're doing. But I did learn in my life that you said about a boss. I never liked being pigeonholed into you have to do things this way, right? Yeah. I've always been one that's very vocal. This is the wrong way to do it. We need to do it this way. And you kind of, I've said that when it comes to, the way people are running programs. I said it when I was a tech and these guys weren't doing the work the right way. Like I've said it on everything. So I think I relate to you in that regard of being very entrepreneurial. Do I know what this is going to be? I mean, it could be next year and we just like, okay, we did this. We worked hard. It just sometimes things don't work out. I don't know what the future holds. I do know that I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm having fun. I'm sitting here having fun talking to you. So it's like, it's been a really cool experience. And I feel like anything you attempt and try, even if you fail, you're learning from it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the biggest life lessons, always learning. But yeah, I think one of the things I thought that was important that you said was how you're questioning everything. I'm always saying like why. Why is it this way? Why can't it be this way? Um, I think that's kind of what started maybe turning the gears in my mind for like, working towards entrepreneurship. I'm always asking why. Even when I was at Bucknell and stuff, it's like obviously you're gonna do what the head coach is saying, but sometimes I'm just thinking like, why are we not doing this? So it was nice at Seton Hill. I got to start. I had more like, I guess you'd say like authority. I could, my ideas had more value there, so I was able to implement some of those ideas and see what was working, what wasn't working, stuff like that. So yeah, I just like that. I like that freedom of it. I like being able to work when you want. With the shoes, like you could imagine, a lot of guys are at school or they're working during the day from like 9 to 5. So for me, honestly, like my day picks up. Like six to midnight. If I'm up till midnight, that's when it really picks up, and that's when I'm doing a lot of talking with people, making deals, and it's for me, it's really fun. Like this, doing the shoes, honestly, is like not, I wouldn't even consider it a job, even though it is my like main source of income right now. It just kind of happened. It fell into that. Um, and it's like, wow, this is like almost like living the dream because for me, it's just so much fun. And I get to see these awesome shoes every day. The ones I want to keep, I could throw them in the closet for a little bit, the ones that are my size. Um, but yeah, it's just fun for me. So, but the only thing about it, like the only complaint I have is since we moved down here, it's the first time in my life my life has slowed down. I haven't been part of a team or I haven't been in classes or whatever it may be. So I've had a lot of time this last year and, I'm thinking now, what's that next step? And just like we've been talking about the whole time, either opening the club or, getting back into, I don't know, coaching at some level or whatever it may be.
Well, dude, you got a really cool story, and I'm a big fan. We've chatted a lot, over the past 6 months or whatever. Dude, anybody that sees this, go follow Drew Wrestler Shoes. You're looking for anything cool, unique, dude. He posts some cool stuff. Dude, he's got a method to his madness, and I wasn't going to ask about it because that's his method. You don't want to give away trade secrets, but he's got some cool stuff, man. And I know there's a big market, a secondary market for wrestling shoes and things like that. Check him out, Drew Wrestler Shoes, Drew Phipps. Bro, this has been cool, man, to get like a background of where you're from and how that kind of happened. Dude, if I can ever help you in any way or share anything or talk to anybody or whatever, man, just reach out to me.
Yeah.
This has been really cool, dude. And I think people
sure.
are really going to like to see who's behind you, right? Because for like a year or two, like only thing anybody ever seen about me was MB, the character back here, right? They seen that guy's face, but they didn't know who that was. So I think adding like a voice to it maybe can, maybe even help it even grow more. So, dude, it's awesome. Episode 20 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. I didn't think I'd get this far, but here I am. Drew Wrestler Shoes over here. Dude, thank you so much, man, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I was gonna say I know when I'm getting some of my family members for Christmas now. I got to order that Matt Clash game.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Hook them up, bro. It's a stocking stuffer.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. That'll give us something to do throughout the winter. Well, not much of a winter down here now, but you know what I mean. All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be messaging like always. So I'll talk to you later on.
Yeah, man.
Sounds good.